Hello and welcome back to video classes by Konnur English Medium School. In today's video class we will start the next chapter, which is What is Moral Action? An essay written by M.K. Gandhi. The pre-reading activity says, honesty is the best policy. Do you agree? Discuss in pairs. So you have already heard this line, honesty is the best policy. So should we practice honesty because it is the best policy, it keeps us safe, or should we be honest for other reasons? So in other words, should we be honest because it helps us to be honest, or should we be honest because that is our duty? It is our duty to be honest. So if you are not sure what that question actually means, we will go ahead and read this essay written by M.K. Gandhi, a beautiful essay with a thought-provoking message in it, and at the end of this chapter, at the end of the essay, we will find an answer to that question, whether we should practice honesty because it is best practice, or should we be honest because it is good to be honest, or it is our duty to be honest. So what is moral action is the main question that Gandhi wants to address through this essay. But before we actually go ahead and then see what he has to tell us about moral action, let us first understand what moral action itself is. Moral action, well, moral and immoral, you have already heard about those two words. Moral is good and immoral is not good, it's bad. Moral is something like being truthful, being faithful, doing good things, being helpful to others, praying to God, going to school, and all good things. And immoral is bad things like lying, using bad language, or cheating, breaking trust of people, and other many bad things that are possible for anybody to commit. So, but we are not talking about those things. We are not talking about moral and immoral here. We are talking about good things, and we are asking ourselves, as we proceed reading the essay, we will be asking ourselves, are these good things really good things? Things like going to school, or helping others, or helping a beggar, or even going to temples or places of worship and praying to God. These are all good things. We have already accepted them as good things. But are they really good things? That is the idea that M.K. Gandhi wants to bring out through this essay. So, honesty is the best policy. Yes, let's see if honesty is really the best policy and we should follow it the way we do normally. Shall we go ahead and read the essay? Well, this language is a little difficult to follow. M.K. Gandhi was not only one of the greatest political leaders the world has seen, but he was also one of the greatest writers of all times, you can say. So his command over English is impeccable. You will see quite a few sentences that are pretty long, and they carry so much meaning and expression in them. So we will take small breaks here and there and then look at the language part as well. And I want you to pay attention and then make notes of those things. When can it be said that a particular action is moral? So the question is raised at the outset, at the beginning itself, and Gandhi at the end says, now that question is answered. So the question will be answered throughout this essay. When can it be said that a particular action is moral? So let's say I sit down today and I just write a page of handwriting. I write a copywriting. I want to improve my handwriting and I practice it. Or let's say I wake up early in the morning. Or let's say I go to school. I pack up my own bag. I pack up my bag myself, and I have completed my homework. I go to school. Good things, yes? Are these things, are these actions moral ones? Can we say that they are moral acts? I go to temple, pray to God before going to school. Can we say that it's a moral act? When can it be said that a particular action is moral? A particular action, any action that you think is a good action, any work that you have done and you think it is a good work. So we need to ask ourselves, is it really a good work? Is it really a moral act? In asking this question, the intention is not to contrast moral with immoral actions, but to consider many of our everyday actions against which nothing can be said from the conventional standpoint, but which some regard as immoral. Well, there are so many things we do like that, yes. Many of these things are done by others too. So it's a social pattern, a behavioral pattern that we fall into. So children go to schools, grown-ups go to work, yeah, they go to offices, shops, businessmen, yes. So we all do those things on a daily basis. We all fall into a social pattern, a behavioral pattern, you can say. So you can call them conventional behavior. All these things, they are part of our conventional behavior. And most of these things we do with the knowledge that they are good things to do. So Gandhi says, I'm not talking about what is wrong here. I'm only talking about what is right. And I want to ask you if that is really right. What is right is it really right? What is good, is it really good? That is the tone of discussion here. That is the tone of debate here. Most of our actions are probably non-moral. So we have never heard that word before. We have heard moral and immoral, but we have not heard about non-moral. So what is non-moral? They do not necessarily involve morality. So when we talk about an act being non-moral, we are not talking about whether it is immoral. If it is not moral, is it immoral? No, that's not the question. Like I said, is it really moral? That is kind of that. Non-moral is it really moral? For the most part, we act according to the prevailing conventions. Such conventional behavior is often necessary. Well, for the most part in our life, most of the things that we do, we do them because others do them too, and it's an accepted way of life. Like I said, it's part of a conventional behavior system. So if no such rules are observed, anarchy would be the result, and the society, social intercourse would come to an end. So it's okay that we follow that social conventional behavior. We fall into that pattern. That's okay. We do things that others do. Children go to school because children go to school. Grown-ups go to work because that's what grown-ups do. So we fall into a behavioral pattern. We follow that convention, and it's good. Because if we do not follow the convention, if we do not do it because others are doing it, and we want to do something differently everywhere, but then society will not be functioning smoothly. Instead of an order in the society, there will be anarchy. Anarchy is a lack of order, lack of any system, and we will not be able to live harmoniously, happily and peacefully in the society if we do not follow the conventional behavior. So Gandhi is not making an objection here towards conventional behavior. He is not telling us not to do things that others are doing. He is not telling us not to follow a conventional behavior. He is not objecting. He is not saying that that is wrong. What he is trying to say here is, those things that we do, which others do as well, which is part of a conventional behavior system, are we doing that understanding it fully, why we do it? Do we understand the goodness those actions carry, or the effect, the good effect that they have upon people that they are supposed to have effect on? So things like that. This essay is more like a philosophical outlook towards life, towards what we do, towards what we are, how things work out for us in the mind before they are acted out. So more of that instead of just words and sentences. So you need to pay attention to the underlying meaning. A moral act must be our own act. So after making that statement clear that he is not objecting to conventional behavior, but instead he wants to rather bring out the idea that not every good action is really a good action. So for an action to be moral, for an action to be 100% good, it must be our own act. It must be our own act. That means we have to do it because we want to do it, not because somebody else wants us to do it. So if we are doing something good because somebody else wants us to do it, then even if it is a good thing, we are not doing it as our own act, we are doing it as somebody else's. So a moral act must be our own act, and it must spring from our own will, and it should come from our own wish, our own desire. If we act mechanically, there is no moral content in our act. Such action would be moral if we think it proper to act like a machine and do so. So if we are acting like machines, yes, you see, you press a button and machine does what it is supposed to do. It doesn't think, it doesn't have its own conscience, it cannot ask itself a question, why am I doing this? So many of our actions, whether they are good or bad, they are like that. We act like machines. Many of our acts are like mechanical, they are mechanical acts. So if our acts are mechanical, even if they are good, they cannot be called moral, because we are acting like machines. Even though we are human beings, we don't know why we are doing those things. So if I am a child, I go to school and I do not know why I have to go to school, why I should study mathematics, why I should learn English, why I should do well in examinations. If I don't know that, then even if I am getting good grades in the examination, even if I am doing well in all the subjects, it's a good thing, yes, absolutely good, but it cannot be moral because it's not my own act. I don't know why I'm doing it. I'm just acting mechanically. That's an interesting point that Gandhi makes there. So, in doing so, we use our discrimination. We should bear in mind the distinction between acting mechanically and acting intentionally. So, whatever we should do it intentionally, but not mechanically. It may be moral of a king to pardon a culprit, but the messenger bearing the pardon order plays only a mechanical part in the king's moral act. Now think of a king who issues a letter of pardon for a culprit who had been jailed. A man has committed an offense, he has committed a crime, and the king has put him in the jail. But after a few weeks or a few months or a few years, the king realizes the man has transformed, he has changed. Not a single, any kind of wrong things have been reported from the jail authorities about that man. He hasn't behaved wrongly in the jail premises. So the officers in fact have written to the king saying that, well, this man is actually a good man. Maybe he committed a crime before, but then he has changed, he has become a good human being. So the king decides to forgive that man, pardon him, and then send him back to home. So he has written a pardon order, and that order he has sent to the jail authorities, the prison authorities, saying that release this man, let him go. Well, the king has thought about his decision, right? It is his own act. He is not acting mechanically. He has considered all the things, all the reports he has received from the jail authorities, and he has applied his thought into it, and he has intentionally written that letter with full awareness, with his own wish he has written, because nobody can force a king to do anything, right? So whatever decision he has taken it knowing fully well what he's doing. So he decides to forgive that culprit, which is 100% moral act. It is done intentionally, not mechanically. It is done because the king wanted to do it. What about the messenger who's carrying that order to the prison authority? Well, that order, that circular, has words written in it which are going to give liberty and freedom to a man who has been sentenced to prison. So that order, that message is very important. It has a lot of value. However, the person, the messenger who is carrying that message, does he know what he's doing? Or is he just doing it because he has no choice? So he takes that order, gives it to the prison authorities, and the prison authorities release the man. The man goes home. Yeah? A lot of things happen here. But among so many acts is the act of the messenger too, carrying that message from the king to the prison authorities. So is he also doing a moral act? That is Gandhi's question there. Well, but if the messenger were to bear the king's order, considering it his duty, his action would be a moral one. If he does that with happiness, with satisfaction, well, I am appointed here, I am employed by the king. My duty is to carry out his orders, carry messages like this. And if he does that with a complete awareness that he is doing it as a duty, then that sense of duty will make his act moral one. If he doesn't have that sense of duty, it doesn't make his act immoral, no, but it would make his act non-moral. So that sense of duty, that awareness, understanding why that act is being done is important. So, how can a man understand morality who does not use his own intelligence and power of thought, but lets himself be swept along like a log of wood by a current? So, if we let ourselves be swept like a log of wood in the current, in the river, then how can we ever understand the importance of the meaning of acts that we perform? So, have you seen big chunks of trees, flowing away with the river water? They just get carried away by the river water. They cannot protest. They cannot say, well, I want to stop here, I want to go back to the land. No, they can't. They will be swept along with other dust and debris in the water. So, if our life is like that, if we are getting swept away by the current of life, without any self-control, without the capacity to control the situations around us, then everything we do is meaningless. That's what Gandhi is trying to say. So we should have that awareness about things around us, about the things that we commit, about the things that we perform, the acts that we perform. So with that message, Gandhi begins his essay. He wants to show us these tiny insights into the everyday acts that we perform. And everywhere he'll put a question mark and say, well, see, did you do that like that? Well, maybe then your action is not moral, it is non-moral. Things like that. We will come up with more explanation on that in the next part of the essay, which we will do in the next video class.